What is going on, OTB Nation? Welcome into episode number 223 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, and of course now viewable on the YouTube Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network. It's KB and DJ coming at you with the final show before the PLL season kicks off. But of course, we still have NLL conference finals to dive into. We got an NLL finals matchup on the horizon. And this is going to be our big PLL preview show because it's the last show before DJ and I hit the road for the first time this summer. The boys are getting back together next week. Albany is on the horizon. Can't wait. It's going to be a blast seeing everybody on their way there today. Just had me that much more giddy for next week. As we get set to go to upstate New York and kick some Laxdad ass in Bino in the parking lots. We're going to do our PLL predictions, and of course we're also going to talk about all the latest with the World Lacrosse ESPN news and the NCAA tournament. But before we get started, make sure you guys are following us on the socials. You can see it running down below on the little ticker below us if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be. You should be subscribed on YouTube. It's at OTB LaxPod on Twitter and Instagram. Can we get to 1,400 followers on Twitter before Albany kicks off? We're 20 away. 20 away, guys. Let's get to 1,400 before Albany's opening face-off on Saturday, June 4th. Let's make that. That's super easy. Be a friend, tell a friend. Just follow us on the Twitter machine at OTB LaxPod, Twitter, Instagram. The Instagram content's coming back this weekend, too. Don't you worry. It's coming back. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_next. Great. Follow me on Twitter at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. You know, the more 5-star ratings and reviews they got left on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, the more people find the show, the more, family we add to OTB Nation. So go subscribe on the podcast feeds and subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the like button, hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single episode. Every Friday, OTB goes up in your YouTube feed, and we're 78 subscribers away from 200. Come on, that's easy. There's 1,380 of you that follow us on Twitter. 78 of you hit that subscribe button. Boom, we're in business, and we're that much closer to DJ and I taking this thing full time. We'll be able to do OTB full time. We'll be able to do Underground Sports Philadelphia full time. We need the YouTube subscriber help, though. So go subscribe on YouTube. Just search Underground Sports Philadelphia. Big thank you to our sponsors who make this show happen. Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. Deej, is there an update on the Tomahawk Shades order for you?
As far as I know, they're still getting my order together.
Still coming. I have a feeling you'll have it before Albany, though. That's my guess. They're probably just waiting, so you have a nice little present to pack with you before you head here.
It better be. It better be on my doorstep before I leave for work Thursday. Because I don't plan on going back home.
TomahawkShades.com. Get your sunnies, your blue light glasses, all that good stuff. When you go to checkout, use promo code USP for 25% off your order. That's TomahawkShades.com. Promo code USP for 25% off at checkout. Kenwood Beer. It's the summer of Kenny. KenwoodBeer.com. Use the Kenny tracker to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. It's Philadelphia's #1 light beer. All new and improved cans. KenwoodBeer.com. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And Bino Board. Go to BinoBoard.com and use code BinoUSP for 10% off your order at BinoBoard.com. That's BinoBoard.com and code BinoUSP for 10% off your order. That includes that limited edition ultraviolet board that DJ's been eyeing up for quite some time now. So go get that thing while you can because it will sell out just like the Team USA board did. BinoBoard.com. Coach Deej, what is popping, my man?
I am getting our end of the year banquet together, figuring out MVP, offensive MVP, defensive MVP, teammate award, ground ball king, all that good stuff.
Oh, I like that title, ground ball king.
Yeah. That's
big
one.
Fan.
I'm interested on who I don't know who to give that to. If I give that to him, then I have to give someone else my defensive MVP award. There's a lot of shifting I'm doing. I don't know if I want to give more than one guy. I don't want if I give a guy more than one award, even if he deserves it. So
Right.
doing all that. And so I'm pretty much hiatus from coaching for a very short amount of time. I start coaching again next week for summer ball. I have figured out the weekends I will not be out and about. I will not be at. Let me pull it back up. Let's see. I know for sure I will not be at Long Island.
#sad.
I will not be at Long Island. I will not be at Charlotte.
I know you're bummed about that one.
I am. I was really excited to go to Charlotte just because I've been trying to go for the longest. I was ready to link up with Harrison and get everything going with that drum squad and everything. Charlotte's going to be awesome. If you're going, you're going to have an awesome time. I'm really upset I can't go. I will also not be. Oh, there's no PLL that weekend, so not a big deal. And then I'll also miss. What is this?
All-Star?
Yeah, All-Star.
But you're good for Baltimore.
I am good for Baltimore.
Let's go.
I'm going to Homewood.
Let's go. That's the big one. That's the granddaddy of them all.
I'm really excited to go to Homewood. That's one that I've been eyeing for a while. I know
Let's go.
Like a lacrosse mecca. Haven't even come close to being over there. So
that's Homewood. That's Jimmy's Seafood.
Oh,
let's go, brother. Let's go,
dude. How many OTB fans can we get with us at Jimmy's Seafood?
Come on, stop playing with us.
Let's just have a big party, big family dinner.
What time are these games? Let's see. Let's pull up the old PLL app. Which, if you haven't downloaded that, you're doing your PLLing wrong. This app has been a lifesaver. We got 6:30 and 9:15 on June 24th, and 6 p.m. and 8:45 p.m. on June 25th. My brothers and sisters in lacrosse holiness. That afternoon on June 25th will be Jimmy Seafood Day. Let it be known. We will be there, hanging out, doing the damn thing. We might just have to call Jimmy Seafood like next weekend and be like, hey, can we do a live pod? Can we do a live pod while we wait for, PLL to kick off? Because, man, that's an electric weekend, too. Baltimore weekend, Homewood, Whips Woods on ESPN2, Dogs Chaos on ESPN Plus, it's a Friday night. Friday night Lax, Friday night Under the Lights, and then Saturday night Chrome Cannons, Atlas Archers. Come on, stop playing with us.
I love that.
Let's go.
I'm so excited for that.
Go.
Excited to do the pod in Underground Studios next
Hell
week.
yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
We're going to a Phillies game.
Dude.
We're going to see Ohtani and Mike Trout.
I've already told everybody at work, y'all better get used to Fridays, me not being in the building. Cause
it's going to be like that video. It's Friday night.
Because summertime, I gets out. I travel.
Right.
I travels. That's the time to go. Oh, and I told them, I was like, my birthday weekend, I don't know what y'all are going to do, but I'm leaving like Wednesday night.
Leaving.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Be in Philly Wednesday night.
Oh, my God.
Boston for the rest of the weekend.
Man, Lord help us going to Boston. The return to the crime scenes.
I know. The return of it all. The crime scene, but also like the beginning of everything at the same time.
Right.
It was the kickoff.
Man, what? That was June 2nd, June 3rd?
June 4th. June 4th and 5th. Yeah.
It was the same days? Oh, yeah.
June 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Right, because it was 3 days.
Yep.
Dang. That's wild. What a way to celebrate. What a
I
way
know,
to
right?
celebrate.
We're going to be together on the 1 year.
It's fucking electric. Let's go. Let's go. What else was electric was these conference finals. Game 2 in the NLL. The Buffalo Bandits are going back to Title Town. They're playing for an NLL championship for the second season in a row that we've had an active season, obviously. They lost in 2019 to the Calgary Roughnecks, but they are back. The revenge tour continues. They beat the Toronto Rock in 2 games, winning 10-9 in a very close matchup. A goal gets waved off last second. I still don't know if it should have been waved off or not. I've watched that goal play probably 50 times, and I still can't tell. It's so close.
It's one of those calls where it was so close they just had to go with what was on the floor, and on the floor they waved it off, so they had to say no. I can't tell you if it was in or not. I don't know. I literally don't know. And that's a tough way to lose, per se. You can say that's why they lost. We don't know what happens if that goal is counted and they go to overtime. Maybe Toronto wins and we're talking about 2 game threes today. But we're not. We're talking about 1. That's really a tough way to go out, but I think it could be very similar to Buffalo this year, and they use that for fuel next year to come back and run through the table. Toronto's got a very good team. They have enough to win this year. They just ran into literally what might be one of the best NLL teams to ever touch, a surface.
Yeah, I mean, Toronto, they're just consistently good. I don't even know what other franchise, for people out there that are just casual lacrosse fans that, just picked up the NLL this season or whatever. I don't even know who to compare the Toronto Rock to in another sport, really. But they're just consistently good. And, they've won championships in the past. You're going to hate this, but they're very similar to the Green Bay Packers. They're consistently good, have talent top to bottom, and they're just always in it. If they're going to a championship or not, you're always going to consider the Toronto Rock a playoff team. They're locked in the preseason, in the offseason. No matter what, the Toronto Rock are always going to be there because they have talent top to bottom. They have a fantastic coach. They have a top 3 goalie in the league, which you need in order to win in this league. And, to lose by 1 goal, it's heartbreaking, but they will be back. It's one of every sport they talk about how hard it is to get back. Toronto's one of those teams that can overcome that stigma and will be back in this situation potentially next year. We're talking about them in the conference finals again.
Yeah, after watching them this year, they remind me a lot of the Boston Bruins, a team that's just, they're good. They, during the regular season, you might see things that worry you, but they always do enough to make it back to the playoffs. And then in the playoffs, they always turn into that next gear, and they're in a conference semi or a conference final, or you look up and they're in the Stanley Cup playoff and it's game 7, and you're like, are they going to win it or not? And that's a team I see Toronto being as I continue to watch moving forward. A team that has all the pieces, but it's just one little small thing here or there that keeps them from winning or keeps them from advancing in a round that they possibly could advance in.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity for Toronto to be back here next year. And if you're a Toronto Rock fan, I wouldn't be discouraged at all. I think getting TD in the fold, with another full year of NLL action next year is only going to pay dividends. And the talent top to bottom is beyond stellar. So Toronto will be back. But like you said, Buffalo's just arguably best NLL team to ever step on the floor, potentially, if they seal the deal and win a title year. They could solidify that argument. The San Diego Seals force a game 3 in overtime with one of the most ridiculous goals I've ever seen. One of the most gutsy goals from one of the most gutsy players, Dane Doby. Just fucking no look behind the back, seals it against Colorado in the Loud House. I was jaw on the ground when that happened because, one, I thought he stepped in the crease at first because of how fast that play moved. And then to see that it was behind the back the way that it was in slow motion and he stayed out of the crease, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how good of a player he is. and forces game 3, and now it's, winner take all back in San Diego between two heated rivals, and we'll see what happens. But San Diego saves their season in overtime, in a game that, again, no Ryan Lee for Colorado, and just a game of runs. That's what this entire series has been. It's been who can go on the run. San Diego got, the momentum of a run and then hits it in overtime. This series is so unpredictable. You and I were texting earlier this week, like, who do you got? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know who I'm going to pick when we go to our picks in a little bit, but this series has been so entertaining. And kudos to San Diego for locking in overtime and forcing game 3 and not letting their season come to an end.
Yeah, that when I was watching, it amazed me at first. I was like, there's no way that just happened. Like, what? Like, I was like, wow. I was finally going to get finally going to get a conference finals game right, which I have yet to get one right, by the way. But we'll leave that.
I only have one.
And so,
no, I have 2. I forgot. I picked Buffalo game 1.
And I have that one. Sorry, and 1 for 3. I have the Buffalo one, and I'm watching, and then I'm watching. I'm like, that happens, and I'm like, wow. No other player on the planet could have done that. For one, I really don't feel like any other player on the planet would have done that. And then 2, I go back and I watched the replay a couple times, and it amazed me how fast the switch flipped in his head to do that. Like, he instantly went, well, I know I only have this many seconds on the clock. My body's moving this way. I can try and shoot this way, but that's probably a save. So the only option I have is to go BTB and stuff it here. And it's like he knew Dylan Ward would move his knee slightly to the inside and that pocket would open, because the timing was perfect. The instant Dylan moved his knee, the ball went right by. And I was like, that's sorcery. Those are things that are not done on a lacrosse field, like, ever. And he made it look so effortless, and then just ran straight to the tunnel. It was like, job not done. Straight Kobe 2-0 lead. Is series over? No, I don't think so. Job not done. Like, it was nuts.
As Matt says on Top Bins about some of the players in the Premier League, Dane Dobie practices he's a sorcerer of the dark arts.
Oh my god!
He practices the dark arts.
We need a defense of the dark arts teacher in here ASAP.
Paging Warren Jeffrey.
One that isn't going to try and kill us.
Dylan Ward, are you out there? I'll say this, though. Everybody wants to bag on Dylan Ward all the time. In both of these games, he's been sensational. Has made ridiculous saves.
Oh, yeah. Best he's looked all year has been in the playoffs. Like, as much as I, talked about San Diego running him out, and I've talked about him kind of having lapses throughout the year, like, the playoffs started and he completely turned it on and has looked like, if not, like, one of the best, if not the best goaltender in the NLL right now. Like, it is so hard to score on Dylan Ward. Like, every time someone does score on him, I go, oh my God, like, that was gross, because that's what it's taking right now to score on him. You have to do the almost unbelievable. Like, if Colorado comes out and they win this game and they go into the playoffs or into the finals and somehow upset Buffalo, Dylan Ward is a big part of that.
100%. So we're on deck for a game 3. Like we said last week, not much is going to change with DJ's State of the Fandom, so that is going to bring us right into it. We're going to feed some ducks, and it is the NLL Conference Finals Game 3 pick of the week, powered by the homies over at Pickup. You guys can go to playpickup.com, start playing the hottest headlines in sports, rack up points on your fan profiles, cash them in for prizes. Go to playpickup.com now and start playing those headlines. One pick this week, DJ. Just one singular game. It is the Colorado Mammoth at the San Diego Seals. 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on a Saturday. No respect for the East Coast viewers. It it's a win or go home season on the line for both squads. You win, you get a chance to go toe to toe with what we just said is potentially the best NLL team to ever hit the floor in a 3-game series, or you go home and some of these guys get ready to head to Albany to play in the PLL or get set to go play in summer box leagues that are not named Major Series Lax. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. But Deej, Colorado, San Diego, who you got?
Only being one game, this is still very hard to pick. Easily the biggest game of these two teams this season. It all comes down to this. Literally no other game this year matters. If you don't win tonight, it doesn't matter. You go home. End of the year. There's so many factors in this game. Looking at Colorado, they're on the road, so they have to travel. Different climate, obviously. San Diego pointed that out. They got off the bus, and the first thing they said is it's snowing. And you're going into what is going to be a packed arena, very loud, raunchy, absolute party. Late night, it's going to be 7 p.m. People are just getting, they've already settled into work. They've already had dinner. They've had a few beers in them. Like, it's going to be rowdy. No Ryan Lee. And on the other side, you got San Diego at home. The raunchy crowds partying, having their bags, screaming.
Biggest sporting event in San Diego in quite some time.
Yeah.
Since the Chargers left.
Well, I don't know. I think the Padres have won in between there. It's the World Series. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think the Padres have done too much.
I don't be watching.
This is probably the biggest game since the Chargers played the Colts, when it was Phillip Rivers versus Peyton Manning.
Oh my God, that was so long ago. But that's what I mean, and I think with all those factors and just the juice I saw from San Diego fans on the Twitter machine after that Dane Dobie goal, specifically our guy Diggs tape just was like, that's it, seal it, it's over. We're going back home. We're winning it, and I believe them. I think they win it at home. San Diego is got to take the momentum of that goal late in the game, taking it back home to a party in Pechanga? Yeah, Pechanga Arena, and they're just gonna have a ball with it. Go out, have fun, enjoy themselves, because they know no matter what, this is it per se. Either you move on and you got 2 more chances to play, or you move on and you go play somewhere else doing the other things that are not NLL. So I think San Diego takes care of business.
We've been going back and forth on this game, just weighing everything. It's been a big old scale. I'm actually gonna pause the Ducks real quick because I'm gonna play a little movie clip here for the people on the podcast feed. I might have to mute this on the YouTube so we don't get copyright strike. But this is the mood for both teams.
Well, then I guess there's only one thing left to do. What's that? Win the whole fucking thing. Yeah. Yeah!
Win the whole fucking thing. That's all there's left to do for both of these teams. On one hand, you have San Diego at home, coming off big-time momentum. Dane Dobie extending the season for you. Loads of talent top to bottom. And then you have Colorado coming in here, like you said, without Ryan Lee. You got Zed Williams still. You got, Connor Robinson. You got a bunch of guys stepping up for you in big-time spots for this Colorado team. But what I'm weighing here is simply the guys that have stepped up big time throughout the season for their respective team, stepped up in big spots, and have shown consistency across the board. Last week, goes to overtime. It was anybody's game really last week. Still haven't really seen, a dominant performance from one of these teams in the postseason. That being said, I gotta ride with the boys. I gotta ride with the homies until the end. Give me the Colorado Mammoth to punch their ticket to the NLL Finals, taking on the Buffalo Bandits, and then pulling at my heartstrings for 3 straight games, picking who I think is going to win between the chaotic Bandits and my West Coast NLL squad. Colorado gets the job done. Another close matchup, in my opinion. Could be overtime again, but I think they have what it takes. I think they know what they have to do to beat this San Diego team, where San Diego has kind of, been tiptoeing in their Jordans, if you will, to survive throughout these playoffs and throughout arguably the last 2 months of the season. So give me the Mammoth for my Game 3 pick of the week. DJ's going San Diego, and that is our NLL Conference Finals Game 3 pick of the week, powered by Pickup. It's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a doozy. But when one season is, winding down, a new season is on the horizon. It's Memorial Day weekend, which means training camp is coming, and that means it's our Premier Lacrosse League season preview. We're going to get into all the odds and ends. We're going to predict records. We're going to predict awards winners, and we're going to do our way too early preseason championship prediction as well. We got 8 teams to preview, DJ. How should we start? Should we go alphabetical? Should we go, how the teams finished last season in the standings? How should we break this down?
I like going standings, but I would like to save my favorite team for last.
So we'll go top to bottom.
Which is also your favorite team.
Right. We'll go top to bottom standings-wise. So we'll start with Chrome. A lot of change for this squad. This offseason, a lot of retirements, a lot of new guys coming in. Brand new goalie, which you and I both know. You need a big-time goalie to win in any lacrosse league that you're in. Chrome went 2-7 last year, had a negative 23 score differential, missed the postseason. Draft Logan Wisnauskas, Brendan Nickturn. They're adding JT Giles Harris for the first time into this rotation on defense. They're allegedly running Colin Heacock at midfield, which you and I both hate. I feel like we're in the minority with that as well. You guys know that I'm a very big proponent of watching this Chrome rebuild come to fruition. How do you feel about Chrome going into the season, Deej?
Depending on what happens with their goalie situation and how whoever their number one steps out and plays, I think they could be very similar to an Atlas scenario last year. Do I think they get as high as a 2 seed? Possibly not. But I think they could have one of those seasons where they have a very quick turnaround and are in the playoffs competing very, with pretty much every team in the league because they have so much talent that they picked up. Brendan Nickturn and Logan Wisnauskas, along with the attack unit they already have. Granted, they did lose a lot, but like you mentioned to me earlier, like they are off pod. They finally have reached a point to where they have a defense this year. We know for a fact they're going to put out an entire defense. They won't get Jesse Bernhard back until
Maryland's done.
Until Maryland's done with their Final Four run. But still, they're going to have a solid set defense. They have a couple face-off guys. Goalie is kind of their only question mark with air quotes. They have guys there. They just don't know who it's going to be. Depending on how he plays, they could have a very, very good season, and we could be talking about yet another team with a quick turnaround with a bunch of young guys. And is this the takeover of a new generation of lacrosse?
100%. And, each team this season has 10 games with the 10 weekends this year. not including the All-Star game, because obviously it doesn't count towards your record. So with 10 games this year, Deej, how do you see Chrome finishing the year in the regular season after finishing 2-7 last year?
Five and five. I think I go 5-5 and sneak into the playoff with like the 6 or 7 seed.
We're on the same page. I have them going 5-5 as well. I think it's just enough of an improvement with all the additions that they've made. You're still playing against heavyweight teams this year. You're playing against, I think you play every team at least once this year, if I'm not mistaken. So you're playing Whipsnakes, you're playing Redwoods, you're playing the Water Dogs, you're playing Atlas, you're playing Chaos, you're playing Archers. Like 6 right there that last year were either difficult matchups outside of Whipsnakes for some reason for Chrome, where they just absolutely dominated them, or it was a back and forth heavyweight matchup, and then you had Cannons where just nobody played defense in that game, if I remember correctly. No, that was Atlas and Cannons. Yeah. But I mean, the goalie thing I think is not an issue. Like, this is no slight at Sean Scanoni. It's just one of those things where it's like, you and I were talking before we started recording, like, you go through the goalies in the PLL and you list off goalies that you'd potentially rather have starting for your team on a game day. There's obviously a lot more that we've seen a more of a resume from that you and I would rather have starting on day one for our team. But I think they've added enough pieces to improve, get 3 more wins. And we'll see if it's good enough for a playoff spot or not. I think there's still a lot of talent ahead of them. But I think, there's possibilities there. And, like we said last week now, every game matters for every team because of the offseason tournament. You want to qualify for that offseason sixes tournament, the championship series. So 5-5, I don't think that's going to be good enough for Chrome to qualify for that, but potentially could sneak in, with a low tier playoff seed, depending on how things go for them the rest of the way. So we both have Chrome going 5-5. Let's move on to the next squad who snuck into the playoffs because of a win over this Chrome team. That is the lone squad coming over from the MLL so far. Cannons. They lose PR99. They've added every offensive player under the sun. Still kind of surprised Miles Thompson has not joined their squad yet. I feel like that's something that's inevitable almost, since he's in the player pool, and we'll see if he's back in the PLL this year. It would shock me if they don't add him. But Cannons, to get to the playoffs the way they did, they finished 3-6 last year, a -10 goal differential. But I mean, they scored more goals than 4 other teams last year. Or, I'm sorry, 3 other teams, and they were tied with Redwoods for goals scored last year with 110. Their defense was just a massive issue. I wouldn't even say Morocco was an issue for them. It was just he got left out to dry because their defense was very inconsistent. That's what I'm looking for this year from them, is better defensive play. We'll see how, guys like Asher Nolting pair up with Lyle Thompson. Another full year of Ryan Drenner playing with Lyle. Shane Jackson, more than likely going to be fully in the mix now offensively for them as well. You also look at what they did in the draft. We liked, some of the moves they made along with Asher. But I mean, they've added a ton. And when you add players to a mix, it's a lot of chemistry building that you have to do. So you don't know how a lot of these guys are going to mix full blown. They added Stephen Kelly and Alex Woodall at the face-off position, which last year was their kryptonite. If they finished below 36% last year facing off, they lost every single time. They went 0-6. They added our guy Drake Porter and Colin Kirst at the goalie position with Nick Morocco. And I mean, offensively, they just have every player under the sun, like we said. There's a lot of building that I think is still in the cards for this team. I think last year getting into the playoffs was a cool story for them. It was cool to see PR99 get into the playoffs one last time. Their record didn't really reflect how good they were offensively, but it reflected how bad they were defensively and how many goals they allowed 120 goals last year, so minus 10 goal differential, like I said. I don't know if they're going to improve upon their 3-6 record. Obviously, there's one more game in the mix, but I have them going 4-6 right now on paper, just because I don't know how the chemistry is going to be across the board with so many new additions. Obviously, there was a small switch up with their coaching staff too, but I still think Cannons they're really in this building phase, and they're still trying to find a full-blown identity, which obviously the epicenter is Lyle Thompson, but you're trying to build around him and create a formula that really embodies what he does best to push your team forward. And you just need to see improvement defensively big time from this team if they want to perform at a high level. I have Cannons going 4-6 this year.
Yeah, I'm around there with you, 3-7, 4-6. I think they take a slight step back, and I think it's because I don't know if that defense gets any better, because I cannot contradict myself on my statement earlier with San Diego winning Game 3. Like, I think they will. Your defensive leader doesn't possibly get back until week 3 or 4. That is definitely going to hurt you. You possibly lose your first 3 or 4 games just because you don't have your defensive leader. That puts you in a very bad spot to begin the year.
Which, for context for you too, Cannons play Water Dogs week 1, they play Archers week 3, and they play Atlas week 2. So your first 3 matchups are Water Dogs, Atlas, Archers. And then, if he's out week 4 too, potentially, which who knows, they play Chrome.
Yeah, and it's like, though, at least 2 of those games I see very winnable if you have, Brody Merrill. But with, San Diego possibly being in a 3-game finals in the NLL, you're really pushing it. And that worries me a lot with not only team chemistry, but that defense as well. And if you start off the year 1-3, 0-4, 0-3, 1-2, it's going to be very tough to not only get him added into the groove that you guys are going, but to also bounce back from that and get wins stacked up to be back in a good position. So 3-7, 4-6 is good for me, but I definitely think they take, quote unquote, a step back from where they were last year.
So what's the official record that I'm putting down that we look back mid-September?
I'll go 4-6.
Because I feel like, too, not that it's a bad thing because you can never have too much. I do feel, though, that Cannons overemphasized additions on offense and didn't really improve defensively to just add more pieces to what they already have, being, Holden Garland, Tyson Bell, Zach Goodrich, Dalton Sulver, Jack Keelty. Like, those are core pieces. And then, obviously, Brody Merrill, Jake Pulver as well. But I feel like they needed that one more, big addition, and it just didn't happen for them. We'll see if Matt Rahill from Maryland steps up for them, Brian McIntosh from Hofstra, Scott Hooper from Virginia. Those are some of the new additions as well for them defensively. They also have Reese Eddy back at LSM, so we'll see what they do. But I still think that Cannons are very much so in their building phase and acclimating to the PLL, and we'll see what they do this year. But both of us have them at 4-6, which could potentially be at the bottom of the table, and that means Atlas has the number 1 pick in the draft,
which is wild. But maybe they're doing the whole Packers thing where they're just gonna say, "Hey, defense, keep it close," and our offense will go berserk and win the game. I hate it. That's like my biggest pet peeve as a Packers fan is it seems like Aaron Rodgers walks into every game day locker room and goes, all right, defense, keep it within 3 points, and I promise I'll win the game. It drives me bonkers. But like I could see them doing that with like how they constructed their team. Go out to the defense, be like, hey, we're playing the whips today. Hold them to 12, we'll score 13. Guarantee it. Like that kind of they'd be that kind of team. Hey, whatever floats your boat, whatever works. But I don't like it.
Agreed. It's gonna be an interesting season with the Cannons. I'm excited. Shout out to Coach Quirk, friend of the program. Can't wait to have him back on. Let's go to the defending champs, Deej. They finished third from the bottom in the regular season at 4-5. Weird that they had a negative goal differential. Scored the least amount of goals in the league last year at 96. Didn't even crack 100. Defending champs, though, they dethroned the Whips. Half their team is not going to be there for the first potentially 3 weeks of the season due to half of their team playing for the Buffalo Bandits in the NLL. Lot of solid additions, though, for this team. Unfortunately, the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Crowley, will not be suiting up for Chaos as he had shoulder surgery this week. So he will not be playing any lacrosse this summer. So shout out to the big cat. Hopefully he gets back healthy for the Wings this winter. But this team is going to be interesting for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season. A lot of quote-unquote replacement players, as people are dubbing it. There are some familiar faces, though, with PLL experience and with Chaos experience. The boy Bryce Wasserman is back. The boy who's coming through in the clutch in Albany. I know you were hyped when you saw that tweet, DJ. Jerry Raganese bringing the secret sauce to Albany for the boys. This Chaos team is going to be very unpredictable, I would say, to start the year, simply because they're missing their core guys. But I think big thing, Blaze Reardon will be there, Jared Newman will be there, Jack Rowlett will be there. This is an opportunity for guys like Andrew Q to really step up and make a name for himself at the PLL level. This is an opportunity for somebody like Joe Resitardis to really step back into the PLL and the field game and really step up. This is an opportunity for Ryan Smith to really step up. Midfield wise, I think this is prime opportunity for our guy KJ47 to shine. Because he could pop up at the top and play offensively. He could drop back and play midfield like he did last year. I also think Challen Rogers being there is going to alleviate a lot of the pressures of Dane Smith not being there. They obviously have Jonathan Donville in the mix too. They'll have Pat Resch coming back. It's an underrated signing that I think a lot of people forget. This guy is on Chaos. TJ Camizio is part of this Chaos roster now. But I think the biggest takeaway here is that Chaos's defense will still be intact. Blaze will be there. It's just up to, the offense and the midfield, which some of these guys were there. Some of these guys have previous chemistry from other teams. How do you kind of see this Chaos squad taking shape with, the circumstances that they'll have to face for the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season?
It's weird, but I think they actually have one of the best positions because of who they have as quote unquote replacement players and like what their offense is going to look like for the first couple of the weeks. It's completely different than what it will look like when they get all those guys back. So nobody really knows how to prepare for this first couple of weeks of Chaos ball. And then they're all going to get used to that. And then everything's going to switch when those old guys get back, and they're going to have to try and get used to playing against that set of offense again. So they have a position where they could come in and continuously be that best team in the league that they have been because their defense is intact, which is a very important part of the ball. It'll be tough not having their face-off guy and Max Heidler, but that's a position where depending on who you're going against, if you can keep them muddy and keep them on the ground, they have great wing guys, and they can pick up plenty of ground balls and win face-offs. So that's not really a problem for them. And like you mentioned, it's more of that offense. But with who they have and having that different identity that defenses aren't used to when seeing that chaos jersey, they could run away and have a very good season because of the changeup.
And, they have Jerry Raganese coming in who has PLL experience at the faceoff spot, and they have a guy returning to chaos with PLL experience in Tommy Kelly. So I think, as much as they're going to miss Max Adler and what he brings to the table, it could be a lot worse than having two PLL vets and a guy who was on your roster for 2 years prior to last season coming back. It's two guys that know the PLL rules. I think Jerry being there is going to help Tommy a ton because we all know Tommy struggled in the bubble, but a lot of people struggled in the bubble. And that's what kind of led to his release from the squad and not being protected when cannons came through. But I think Jerry being there is going to really help Tommy out a lot because I kind of view Tommy being the starter on opening day for them just because of the familiarity with AT. But I think Jerry will just be a massive extension of the coaching staff for them. And I think it'll really help Tommy out with a lot of the PLL nuances that he struggled with in 2020. And I mean, they got the reigning MVP and the best player on the planet in Blaze Reardon. Like, it's tough to knock that. I have Chaos this season going 6-4, improving upon their record from last year when they went 4-5. I just think they're too fucking talented. And, some of the guys they signed would be on an expansion roster immediately and starting for that expansion roster. I certainly think they're going to crack the 100 goals scored mark this season, no doubt about it. And once they get their entire offense back, which includes Tehoka, which includes Mac O'Keefe coming back, they're gonna put up goals and they're gonna win games. I have them going 6-4.
I kind of like 7-3. I like 7-3 for this team. Like I mentioned, they're in such a different spot than everyone else. They have a chance to shock some teams and win a couple games that teams feel like they shouldn't win.
Moving on to the former defending champs and now the reigning runners-up with what I laughed at with their hype video, unfinished business. I don't know how you have unfinished business when you have 2 titles to your name. The Whipsnakes Lacrosse Club. They finished with a negative goal differential last year, scored 102, but had 113 put up on them, which was the third most in the league, only behind Chrome and Cannons. Whipsnakes last year just seemed in a weird spot. Obviously, Rambo got hurt in Baltimore, so that derailed a little bit of things for them. Kyle Bernlohr kind of, for lack of a better term, got the yips. But then they had the Fips come in and, carry them to get to the championship game. They still have a ton of the guys on this roster. They added a ton more Maryland guys to this roster. There's no doubt in my mind Whipsnakes are just going to continue to compete and be one of those teams that just continues to get into the postseason one way or another. They went 5-4 last year. I think they can go 6-4, 7-3. I'm gonna knock them. I'm gonna put them down at 6-4 because also, we don't know if Zed Williams, if Colorado advances, they won't have Zed for potentially the first 2 to 3 to 4 weeks of the season, which is, he's a massive part of their offense. But for the most part, their whole roster will be intact going into the season outside of Zeddy ball game, depending on how things go for Colorado on Saturday night. But I'm going to put Whipsnakes down at 6-4. I think they'll improve. They'll get one more win. I just don't know. I think the championship game loss factors into a lot of things. You had a lot of guys play NLL this year, have a longer, season of playing, a shorter off season. And I think as weird as it is, it's a big question mark to see if Kyle Bernlohr bounces back. We got to see that unfold because it's been a while since we've seen him play. Hopefully he does, because it's always better for the league when you have your best players at their best. But I have Whips going 6-4.
I like 6-4 too, just simply because like you mentioned, we don't know what's really going to go on with their goalie situation. We hope he bounces back, but I mean, he could literally be hitting one of those career slumps that kind of just sends you down the bad path. I really hope he doesn't, for the simple fact that he's an amazing goalie. I mean, he's the first goalie I remember making one of those crazy saves that made me go like, whoa. It was the 2016 National Championship game, his shot on Kluge, or his save on Kluge. It was nuts. I will never forget that save a day in my life. Never want to see a player like that kind of just lose it. But sometimes it happens. And also losing Zed, like you said, that's a pretty big deal. And I just think teams are starting to catch up in terms of talent. They were such a stacked team offensively that teams couldn't keep up defensively, or they just couldn't score enough goals to not outscore them. But teams are just about even with them now, or if not better than they are now. So the Whips have to go out and work for it. And in certain situations, they're not better than the team they're going against, or they're not working harder than the team they're going against. They're losing games. It's a matter of just not simply being the best anymore.
They were one of those teams too that I think it's them, Redwoods, and Archers maybe to a lesser extent, but like Redwoods and Whipsnakes were the two teams that had the camaraderie from the concept of 2019 putting the college guys together. Like, they are still very much Maryland's team. So they had that advantage and still have that advantage, in my opinion. So that has played a huge and massive part in their success, and they continue to add upon it because that's the guys they draft, that's the guys they sign, out of the player pool. And I don't blame them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But, I think Zed Williams missing any time for this team is a knock. But not like they don't have the guys to step up, because Brad Smith, Jake Carlson, and Matty Rambo are fucking elite. And then, you have the other thing I think for Whips that I really want to see is not another step back for Chaney. Chaney really stepped back last year in terms of 2-point production. And I know it's, Whipsnake's ball, we hit singles, but to have that outside threat and to have Chaney dropping 2 bombs the way that he did in 2020 and 2019, it added an element to Whipsnake's offense that I think they really missed last year, and that's the result of a 5-4 record. If you can have Chaney get back to maybe not a 2019 level, but just under that in terms of hitting 2-point shots, that really adds a dimension to this Whipsnakes offense that I think they really lacked in 2021.
Yeah, not having an outside shooter is a big problem in the PLL. Like, forcing the defense to stretch out and respect that threat from deep really opens up a lot in the crease, opens up a lot of dodging space and a lot more space just to move offensively. And for him to have taken that step back, you could see how defenses are able to contrast in, take away that inside threat, force you to dodge, send a double team when you turn your back, and now the ball's on the carpet and they pick it up and go the other way. Like, that's exactly what you want to step away from. And I think possibly, don't call me crazy here, but pulling the Cursed brother down, or they still have Ryan Tierney, if I'm not mistaken.
He's on Cannons.
No, yeah, okay, that's what I couldn't remember if he got traded or not. He is on Cannons. But they definitely have a few midfield pieces that they can move down and try down at that attack spot to give another speedy Dodger opportunity out on the wing and leave Brad Smith up at midfield, kind of just to provide something else to take away from defenses being able to contrast and kind of just leave guys kind of out on the island to dodge by themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's a lot of things that I think kind of just slipped away from Whipsnakes last year that will be fixed this year. And I'm going to put this out here right now because we love throwing, propaganda out there. This is now the beginning of the Colin Squires for Depoy agenda begins now. I will be taking no further questions at this time. Moving on to the next squad. Since DJ said we were going to skip the Woods for last, that puts us at the Archers, who finished above the Redwoods last year with a 5-4 record, but had a better goal differential, so that's why they finished in 3rd place. Scored 119 goals, only allowed 95. They have their face-off guy now. Added some more pieces as of this week. Brandon Slade, now a member of Archers, which has me very excited. Shout out to Slades. This Archers team is so much fun to watch. They have Gitz coming back as, primary goalie. And this is a team that I think this is the year that starts the clock of now or never. This is a big year for the Archers. A lot of their guys, not that they're old, but sports age-wise, they're starting to get older. You have guys coming into the next phase of their careers, potentially. We'll see, Father Time is undefeated. This is the year for me for Archers that they really need to go on a run if they want to reach that goal of being a championship team. They have a lot of pieces. They got the final piece to their puzzle in terms of, on paper, in my opinion, with Ignacio coming in at face-off. This is a big year for the Archers. I think they have the talent to do it. I think they have a phenomenal coaching staff. I think last year seeing Marcus Holman look like he was having fun playing lacrosse again was huge. And, they'll have Tom Schreiber to start the season too, which is massive for them. I have Archers going 7-3. I really like them on paper. I really like the way they played last year. I don't think their record really spoke to how dominant they were. Like, they started the season very, very good, and then Long Island happened, and they lost 2 games, and things kind of fell apart for a little bit. Arguably, last year, Archers were the best team in the league. You could make that argument. I have them going 7-3. I think they are going to be towards the top of the table of the standings this year. And like I said, it's the beginning of the now or never for Archers.
I have to agree with 7-3. Like you said, I think they have pretty much everything they need. They could go out and get another LSM, kind of just as something to have as, a safe haven. Because like you mentioned, the numbers are getting high with age. Scott Ratliff is definitely one of those guys that's higher in sports age. Has literally been playing lacrosse forever. Literally seems like a vampire. Seems like every year he pops back. And
he is younger than I thought he was, though. He's only 30.
But like I said, man's been playing lacrosse forever, and it seems like every time somebody steps out, every time he steps out there, somebody goes, "Scott Ratliff is still playing lacrosse," and I go, "Yep, he sure is." So they could do stuff like that, but in all reality, they have all the pieces they need, and they're coming back into a spot where the offense is set, defense is set, and they just had to slide in that last piece with face-off, really. And I don't see them tripping up a lot this year. My biggest concern is them tripping up in the playoffs, and that being the place you cannot trip up in because it's one game and go home. So that's the only thing that has me worried, is them not winning a championship this year because they happen to slip up in the playoff instead of during the regular season at the end of the year, week 9, week 10, when you should slip up instead of week 12, 13.
Also forgot to mention with Whips, Ty Warner's back. Everybody knows that, though. So that's a massive improvement for them in a spot that you and I both said they were lacking. This Archers team, they have the pieces to get it done. Now it's just a matter of getting it done. But I like them on paper. I love their coaching staff. I love their D-middies with Dominique, with Luttrell, with Mark McNeil. Those 3 are huge for them. And then just the offense, it's there. You add Matt Moore into the mix, which I think will help alleviate if Trey LeClaire is not there to start the season. If Connor Fields, with him being out to start the season. You got the guys. Now you just got to execute, consistently and really finish what you've started since that 2019 draft pick game. That's really where things started for Archers. Now it's time to finish it. Moving on to the team that finished in second place last year, Atlas, the Young Bulls, who just continue to just add talent. they just stack it, and they have talented players on this squad. We were talking pre-pod. I think Atlas is a team that potentially takes a step back from where they were last year. They finished 6-3, had a goal differential of 12, and that's why they finished in second place. Scored 120 goals last year. Obviously, they have Jeff Teat coming back. They draft Chris Gray. They have one of the most electric players in the league in Romar Dennis. I think their biggest question mark is seeing how Jack Concannon bounces back from injury from last year, and just building upon success. I think Atlas last year, they exceeded expectations and kind of arrived at where they were a year early. I don't think they expected themselves. Like, they can say it all they want. Like, yeah, we expected to be here. I don't think they expected to be where they were last year. I think they expected 2022 to be the year to take that step forward, especially after gutting the entire roster, bringing in all young guys. I love a lot of the pieces on this roster. I just think they overachieved last year in a lot of spots. So I have Atlas going, looking at all of the, I have them going 6-4 as well. They're kind of in that echelon of where I have Whipsnakes and Chaos. But those two teams are at 6-4 for much different reasons. But I have Atlas taking that step back, winning the same amount of games, but adding a loss because of the extra games. 6-4 is where I have Atlas.
This is crazy. But I think they pull off a win that they definitely shouldn't somewhere in the season and have a phenomenal 8-2 year.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I think what you said, a lot of what you said was very on par with how their season will go. And 7-3 seems like what they should be. But with that extra game that they pull off later, sometime in the year against like a Whips, a Woods, someone like that, where it's a game and they're in it and everybody's like, they really shouldn't be in this game. The other team definitely has more than enough to win. And it's going to be one of those games that they pull off and they end up having an 8-2 year. But I don't think they have enough to win a championship either. I think they fall apart in the quarterfinal or the semi against a team that's been there before, established, may have tripped up during the year, but it's like, hey, it's playoff time to turn it up. This is what we do. And I think that's kind of where we see the young and inexperienced start to fall and, start to play a part is in the playoff rather than during the regular season. There's so much hype, so much skill, so much leg. They're so young that they can just go. They don't have to worry about age. And they have the skill. It seems like the younger the game goes, the better they get skill-wise. Like, I'm seeing the highlights starting with high school players going one hand behind the back, high bouncers. And I'm like, dude, how? But, the more they play, the more they watch, the more things they try, the better they get. And it's the same thing with the young PLL guys. These first year, these rookies, these sophomores, these young guys they're just tearing the game up because they have all this leg and all this skill. That's what the Archers did last year. I don't really see not Archers. That's what Atlas did last year. I don't really see them taking a step back because they're bringing all those pieces plus a guy like Chris Gray in, who's arguably the best left-hand attacking in the draft.
My biggest question is just seeing where these guys fit. Like, you have a puzzle that you're trying to put together that results in a championship, and you just have so many guys that play a lot of similar spots. It's a puzzle that, Coach Rubio is going to have to put together, and we'll see, how he mixes and matches this lineup all season long. But I have them 6-4, you have them 8-2, and that takes us to the Dogs, the top dogs, the Water Dogs, who finished 6-3 last year with a better score differential than Atlas, and that's why they got the 1 seed. 111 goals scored, 98 scored against. Added a bunch more, pieces to this squad that you and I both love. They're Team Canada 2.0 behind Chaos. I really like this Water Dogs team this year. I think the pieces they have are super solid. I think very similar to Chrome getting JT Giles Harris back this year, and very similar to, a lot of teams just getting guys for the very first time. Water Dogs didn't have a first-round pick, but they're essentially getting Michael Sowers for the very first time this year. He barely played last year. You're essentially getting him brand new into this offense, which I think is huge for them. You added Reed Bowering to this team that already has Zach Currier. Talk about ground ball kings. You got two of them right there. Obviously no Ben Reeves this year, but I think that opens up switchability for this offense for Water Dogs this year that just has a ton of talent offensively. I think that opens up a lot of playing time for Kieran McCardle to just stay on the field. You look at the rest of this roster: Ryan Brown, Charlie Kitchen, Kieran McCardle, Michael Sowers. Then your midfield of Reed Bowering, Ryan Conrad, Zach Currier. You drafted Jack Hanna. Potentially gives Connor Kelly an opportunity to play up top more than he did last year. You have Christian Mazzone, Tyler Pace, Christian Scarpello, Mikey Schlosser, Ethan Walker. This team's loaded with talent. I think the only, hiccup that they'll have, depending on that West Finals Game 3, not having Eli Gobrecht to start the season. But defensively, they're solid. They have Liam Burns, Ben Randall, Chris Sabia, who can step up big time. Rylan Reese, Jake Withers. They have Dylan Ward potentially. And if they don't, they have Matt DeLuca. That's huge for them. They also have Jacob Stover, who they signed out of the player pool. I just really like this team. I love Andy Copeland. I think the Water Dogs continue to just build upon what they were doing last year. And when they went 6-3, I have them going 7-3. I think they're a very solid team. I think they're going to be in that discussion for top 4 in qualifying for the championship series. And I think they have a chance to make more noise in the playoffs this year than they did last year.
I don't have much to say about this team. I think they're a team. I really don't. It is not like a bad. I don't have much to say. It's a very self-explanatory. When you say Zach Currier, Reed Bowing, Michael Sowers, what more do I need to say? Ben Randall, Chris, as I say the names, they speak for themselves. There's not a lot to say. They're a very blue-collar, hard-nosed team that's just going to go out and grind. They're going to make you work for, 48 minutes, I believe. Yeah, they're going to make you work for 48 minutes. You're going to have to pick up every ground. You have to run through every ground ball if you want to pick it up. You're going to have to run through a check. You're going to get a body check. You're going to have to score in tight. You're going to, if you want to win, you're going to have to go out and win, regardless of if they have Dylan Ward or not. I'm very on par with 7-3 with you. I think that fits them very well with how they played last year, with who they're adding / getting for the first time, getting back. Just everything that they have going for them. 7-3 seems very par. The only most exciting thing for me is what I just realized is you're going to hate when they play in Albany, because I'm not going to shut up about Matt DeLuca and actually being able to see him play in person. Well, just to let you know.
That's also pending if Colorado wins or not.
I don't know how quick is he going to be able to turn around and play. Do you think – well, my question is, do you think they start Dylan Ward game 1 knowing that he's coming in off of a week with basically no training camp?
But just playing devil's advocate.
I mean, he is Dylan Ward.
Since he's been playing, and he is Dylan Ward.
But, I mean, let's be real here. NLL and PLL goalie, I think,
for sure,
pretty different.
For sure, 100%. But in a way, it's easier mobility for him, PLL.
100%. 100%. I mean, I could see it going either way, but
totally.
And I mean, I'm leaning on what you believe in Colorado winning this weekend, meaning he won't be available next weekend or for a few weekends after that. So, yeah, I'm not.
And hey, I'm not mad about Matt DeLuca. You know I'm a DeLuca guy.
Oh yeah, I love DeLuca. You are just
follower of the pod.
You're gonna hate me because I'm not gonna shut up about DeLuca.
Never that. Matt DeLuca's the man.
I've been talking about
he's the gentle giant.
I've been talking about getting DeLuca in a Woods jersey for how long?
Before they traded for Dylan Ward, I thought he was gonna be the starter for them.
Yeah, dude.
I talked about that forever.
I talked about it forever. I was like, yes. Like I remember when he got drafted, I was talking to my homie Henry, who's a big Woods fan, just because he's a big ND fan. So obviously that makes sense. But he played goalie, and he's my goalie in high school and stuff. And I was like, yo, like, have you seen DeLuca? He's like, that kid out of Delaware. I was like, yeah, like he's gross. And I was like, I think he's gonna start for the Water Dogs. And then like everything happened, and then he goes, well, they got Dylan Ward. And I was like, well, yeah, I don't think he's starting. I don't. Yeah, literally. Well, I don't really like Matt DeLuca like that. If y'all don't know what TikTok,
if you know that reference, comment on the YouTube. If you know that reference, comment down below on YouTube.
Please.
Oh
if you
my
know that
god.
Because well, Dylan Ward's in the house now. So I'm definitely excited. I'm praying, kind of on the low, that I get to see the
plotting on your pick's downfall.
Kinda. I haven't been doing well in them anyway, so I mean, it's really that big of a deal.
Moving to the Woods, our squad, 5-4 last year, a +4 goal differential last season, finished in the 4 seed, losing the quarterfinals to the fucking Whip Snakes again. Added a lot of talent though. Arden Cohen, we get our guy. A full year again of TD, I think will be huge. And not having him in the playoffs sucked. I think adding Arden Cohen makes Garrett Epple better at what he does for this defense, because it alleviates a lot of like extra things that he had to do last year and in 2020. I think of another full year of RP3 in this offense. I think he's going to have a much better year than he did last year. And Redwoods arguably have the best midfield in the league. Plain and simple. From top to bottom. And I'm just, it might sound homerish, but like I'm very high on this team. I think they have the pieces to fully get it done now. I believe more in Timmy Troutner than you do. I have Redwoods going 8-2.
I like 8-2 a lot, actually, for this team. I think they answered all of the questions they needed to answer this year. I thought their attack line was pretty solid with RP3, Cav, and Ryder. My only big thing for me is not having Ryan Lee. It's tough to see him lose him to the injury that he's dealing with.
But Clark Peterson is back, which I'm very excited about for this team.
And I mentioned that to some other Woods guys in the Discord, Sensei guys, Woods fans in the Discord, is, it's Clark Peterson and Ryan Lee are almost interchangeable. They play very similar games, so that role that Ryan Lee would have played for the squad is pretty much filled with Clark Peterson. And then, like you mentioned, looking at the midfield, it is arguably the best midfield I've ever seen.
Them and Water Dogs, in my opinion.
Jules Henningberg, Miles, Serge, Mitch Bartolo, Ncaa, Charlie Bertrand. I think there's a few more. I can't even think of, because
D-Midi wise, you have Isaiah Davis-Allen.
Yeah, and I think they even classify Ryan Lee or a couple other guys that play down at attack as midfield as well on that squad. Like the they're loaded when it comes to offense. Then you look at their defense, who's possibly getting Matt Landis back. So now looking at your cover guys, you could possibly have Matt Landis, Finn Sullivan, Arden Cohen, and Garrett Epple, along with Kyle Thornton and Eddie Glazer. And that's not even counting our polls, who in it in themselves are Kyle Hartzell
and John Sexton.
John Sexton. The team is literally loaded top to bottom. I actually have I've got a little bit more faith in Timmy T this year, giving him almost a fresh restart. I think he addressed his 5-hole problem over the summer. He's had plenty of time, or over the winter, excuse me. He had plenty of time in the offseason to work on that. So I got trust in him. He's going to ball out this year.
Big trust. Woo.
Woods go 8-2 and have a phenomenal year.
I'm just putting this out there, too, for the non-NLL fans or, casual NLL fans that didn't pay attention too closely to the Halifax Thunderbirds this year. Clark Peterson took a massive step forward. Like, if there is an award for, like, most improved, like, Clark should be in that discussion. Like, he was disgusting this year, took his game to a whole new level, and I think that's going to translate this year. Being back with Nat, I think, is going to be great for him offensively. He's that off-ball piece that really helps RP3 succeed, and we saw that with Ryan Lee for the first couple weeks of the season last year. And Clark is, he's just 24-year-old version of Ryan Lee, where Ryan Lee is 26, Clark's a little bit younger, but they play a very similar style of ball, and it's really going to help this team in the long run, having Clark Peterson back. And I think he's just going to be that much more confident going into this year, and having him back on this team cannot be overlooked enough, because he's going to be a huge piece to the puzzle for Redwoods winning a championship like we know that they are capable of. So, looking at our records right now, we both have Cannons finishing at the bottom of the table, which means Atlas would finish the year with the number 1 overall pick going into the college draft. We both have Redwoods going 8-2. You have Atlas also going 8-2. We have, let's see, on the same page, Whipsnakes both at 6-4. Water Dogs and Archers both at 7-3. I have Chaos at 6-4. We both have Chrome at 5-5, which means Chrome qualifies for the playoffs. I have Atlas at 6-4. So yeah, our playoffs would look like this, essentially. It would be Redwoods, or you have Atlas at 8-2. But we have Redwoods qualifying for the playoffs. We have Archers qualifying for the playoffs. Water Dogs, Atlas, Chaos, Whips, Chrome. Those are our playoff teams. Don't know what order it would be. We'll probably put a graphic out later this week to just differentiate everything, because obviously everything's going to come down to goal differential for a lot of the ties and stuff like that. But that's where we have the records going. We're going to do our awards as well before we wrap up the season preview here. So, Deej, the PLL awards, Rookie of the Year for 2022 will be blank.
Logan Wisnauskas.
We are on the same page.
Just because I think Chrome takes, quote unquote, the biggest step from last year in terms of teams. And I think that plays a big, and it should, is how well your team and you perform should play a role in who wins these awards. And I think his team will take the biggest step, and he will have one of the biggest roles as a rookie. So that's going to shine, kind of like what we saw with Teat this year with Atlas. The team took a huge step, and he had such a big role with the team. It was always inevitable that he would get the award, even though there were some people who definitely gave him a run for his money until he kind of took off at the tail end and put up a lot of points, and everybody was like, all right.
100%. I'm on the same page. I think Logan is locked in. Could there be other dark horse candidates? Yes. But like you said, what he's going to bring to Chrome, I think is going to be massive. Defensive Player of the Year. Last year's winner was Graham Hosick from Archers. I have Graham Hosick repeating as Depoy. I think he's just too good. He's the cyborg. Give me Hosick to win back-to-back Depoys.
I'm going with the absolute homie who I thought should have won it last year because I thought he was that good. I think he is the one defender in the PLL that everyone is afraid to go against because it's almost impossible to get past him. Jack Ratliff. 1,000%. I think he wins Depoy this year. He was just so good last year, and I don't think he takes a beat. I don't think he takes a step back. That defense is coming in full circle. Everybody's back. There's nobody from that unit taking a step out. He's got his goalie with him. He can come in, he knows his role. Number one cover guy. I stop their best offensive threat. They want to score, they got to go through me, and he plays it with pride. I value that a lot. I think he's going to get the award he deserves this year. But, of course, dark horse for the homie, Colin Squires for Depoy.
Yeah, Colin Squires is winning Depoy. What are we talking about here? Attackman of the Year. Last year was Grant Ament. Who do you got taking home Attackman of the Year this year?
There's not like a comeback player of the year, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay, then I will say Michael Sowers for this. I think just having that year off and being able to watch the PLL from a sideline / like bleachers point of view and get the look of how the game is played from there. He had a little bit of game experience, but I think that's really going to be able to give him kind of a leg up. And then he's also got that chip on the shoulder of missing his entire rookie season because he got domed in the back of the head. Like, that sucks, and guys remember that kind of stuff. So he's going to have some fire, and like we mentioned, they have an unbelievable midfield and an attack unit that has Ryan Brown on it. The man could put up 100 points and have 97 assists. Like, he could have a very good year simply because of who else is on the field with him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Michael Sowers run away with Attackman of the Year.
I want to say Grant's going to repeat, and I, in my heart of hearts, think Grant is going to repeat. So that is my official pick, but also a dark horse pick for the people at home. I'm going to say Ryan Brown. Y'all know if you listen to this show, Ryan Brown either scores 1 goal or he scores 10. That's how it goes. I think Ryan Brown is going to benefit from a lot of the new pieces on Water Dogs and has a real shot to win Attackman of the Year. But I think Grant is arguably best attackman in the league, just top to bottom. It's him and Lyle. But with Lyle and Cannons from our predictions not making the playoffs, I have Grant taking home Attackman of the Year officially as my pick. So 2 repeats. Probably going to have a third with this next one, Goalie of the Year.
Can you give me a dark horse? And Teat for Attackman of the Year? It's not really dark horse, but I mean, if they have the year, I think they will have at 8-2. It's going to be very hard to argue that Teat wasn't a big part of that and doesn't deserve an Attackman of the Year award. So I'll slide him in there.
Goalie of the Year. It's Blaze Reardon. Next award.
Yes. Next.
Thank you. Next. Shout out Ariana Grande. Face-off Athlete of the Year. Last year's winner, Trevor Baptiste. Kind of a toss-up between him and TD last year. TD obviously got hurt, so that kind of, took it away from TD. But who do you got winning face-off athlete of the year?
TD, 100%. I think he was one of very few, if not the only, face-off specialist we've seen in the Rookie of the Year competition. And he was a finalist. He was top 3. People thought he had that much of an impact at the face-off stripe as a rookie to be considered Rookie of the Year. That's huge. And like you said, I think he only didn't win it last year because he couldn't play that last game in those last few games. And it took away some of his wins, ground balls, face-off percentage, all that stuff from the stats. And Trevor Baptiste ended up taking over and all of that. So I think TD picks up right where he left off. Had a phenomenal year in NLL with Toronto. And, he was a couple face-offs and a couple goals away from not even being available for the first couple of weeks because he's played so well consistently. So I don't see him taking a step back at all. He might go down as the best face-off man ever. He went from, one knee moto grip to S&G like that and mastered it in what seemed like a day. The unreal face-off guy. So much to learn from a guy like that. And he just gives the Woods so much opportunity. The relaxation I saw the Woods play having TD on the field because it's kind of like they knew the offense was getting the ball and it would be at least 52 seconds before defense is playing again. That effect is something you can't take for granted. So TD 100% wins face-off man of the year.
You swayed me. I was going back and forth between 3 guys. Didn't want to have a 4th straight repeat because that's boring, but I think Trevor's going to be in the conversation. I really think Joe Nardella is going to be back in the conversation again this year. I think he had such a dominant championship series in 2020 that it made last year look like such a complete disaster. He was still so fucking good last year for Whipsnakes. It was unbelievable. But yeah, TD being available from week 1, I think is going to be huge. So give me TD for face-off of the year. Hard Hat Award winner. Best SSDM. Danny Logan was your winner last year. Who do you got this year?
Ty Warner. I think him coming back is huge. He's stepping into a role that possibly could be the reason why the Whipsnakes didn't win a championship last year. In all reality, they had pretty much everything locked up last year outside of a short stick D mid because we talked about them drafting one. They picked up Roman Puglisi. This could be a position where, he takes over. I find now that Whips short stick D mid to look very similar to Archers. They have Treasy, they have Dominique, they have Mark. And I think that's what made it so hard for them to get a finalist in that group is because they were so synonymous. You could pick any one of those 3 for Archers and they would get the job done. That's what you're running into with the Whips. But I think Ty Warner just has that extra little bit of just betterness at him. Ty Warner is one of the best short stick D-mids we've seen in the PLL, since 2019. So I think he bounces back, has a huge year, and is it going to end up being Hard Hat?
I'm going to go with one that probably people are sleeping on. Friend of the program. The boy from the Beauties. Give me Ryan Tarafenko.
I think I talked about him last year being a dark horse for this award or one of the awards or something. I like Ryan Tarafenko a lot for the two-way ability he provides. He's very ferocious defensively, very tough, will force you to work for your shot. And then when they make the save, he's going to leak out and push in transition. And if you don't step up on him, he's going to shoot. And if you do, he's just going to dump it and they're going to score. So I love what Tarafenko brings to not only Chrome, but literally any team he could ever put a PLL jersey on for.
And he's a guy that if it wasn't such a loaded rookie class last year, he's in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He was that good last year for Chrome on a team that won 2 games. So, I mean, that just speaks volumes of how good he was, how much of his presence was felt. and I think he's going to take another step forward this year with an improved Chrome roster and take home that hard hat award. Sportsmanship Award went to Eric Law last year. This one is it's obviously not exactly full-blown on the field, but it is, and it's a lot of off the field as well. Who do you have taking home the Sportsmanship Award?
You know, I haven't thought too much about this one, but it might be a guy like Jules. I think Jules might win it this year. He does a great job on the field, obviously, but he's also, I mean, he's one of those guys you hear on the sideline. A guy comes off after a bad shot or a turnover or something. He's like, "You're good, you know. This was there, that was there, but you know, just fix it on the next one. You're good. Keep your head up. Next one." He's very positive, but he also does a lot in the community, especially in Jersey, in the state of Jersey, with Black Lacrosse Allegiance and just helping out younger players, getting them into the game, getting the diversity spread out throughout Jersey, and he just does a lot not only for Black lacrosse players, but just the sport of lacrosse in general. I think his outside of playing work, outside of quote unquote lacrosse work, will get a real shine this year, and that's what he'll end up winning the Sportsmanship Award for.
This one's so tough just because it is such a combination of so many different things. Sportsmanship Award. Man. I'm going to go John Ranigan. For a lot of just on-field, I think he is one of the biggest proponents of sportsmanship from every time I've been around him. He's just such a super inviting person. He's a guy that I think just gives back in a lot of ways that aren't always seen. So I'm going to say John Ranigan, big sportsmanship guy, always there, at the end of games, shaking hands with guys across the board, win or lose. So I'm going to say John Ranigan and kind of a dark horse pick there for the Sportsmanship Award. The Teammate of the Year award went to Jack Kelly last year.
Total joke, but Dylan Ward after Matt DeLuca takes us.
You're so disrespectful.
It's a total joke. Oh man, I haven't thought about this one literally yet. Oh, Austin Ncaa.
I knew you were going to go that. I was waiting for that.
I've talked about this 1,001 times about him being literally the best backup goalie ever. People don't understand that's literally a position. At least in my brain and my heart, that is a position that you have to train for, that you have to be good at. You have to know the game a lot. You're like an extension of the coaching staff on the bench as the backup goalie. You know that you're almost never going to play. So you have to bring the energy. You have to know the game. You have to be super positive. You have to be there to uplift, but you still got to be ready to go in the game. If you threw Austin Cotton in any game, he'd be ready. He'd make saves. He still can do it all. But he understands his role on the bench as the hype man, as that extension of the coaching staff, as that positivity guy, as that guy that's always ready to go. He just understands. And I think there's a real value in a teammate like that. Stags talked about it with Phipps last year. Granted, Phipps had to step in and be starter last year because of everything that was going on with Burnler, but he talked about how he's an extension of the coaching staff and he knows so much about the game, and and how Phipps has gone up to Stags at certain moments and be like, "Hey, try this," or "Hey, did you see this? We need to adjust this." And having that extension there of a guy that knows so much about the game is very important. especially when he's positive and hype.
I'm going to go with one that probably a lot of people aren't thinking. And I think it could pay dividends for this team to be successful. Justin Gutterding. I think he's going to step into this Whipsnake squad and just, be the guy that is going to do what's asked of him. And then, when, guys are back like Zed, he's going to be there, just stepping up for guys. He's an extension of the coaching staff out there. And I think Gutty's a big team guy. So give me Gutty to win Teammate of the Year. Brody Merrill, LSM of the Year. I'm going repeat winner. Mike Earhart. I feel like he's going to win it until he retires. He's just that good. So give me Earhart to repeat as LSM of the Year.
I only have to agree because for some odd reason, he seems to have to be on a upper echelon when it comes to defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their defense.
That's staying in.
Their defense is so just like concrete, so like base, like boom, boom, boom. Their cover guys are their cover guys. They play the same way all the time. You know what to expect from them, almost cookie cutter, like, whereas he has to like step up and really shut things down and be like, yo, like, it seems like he has to be the best defenseman on the field for the Whips in order for them to be good. In games that they've lost, he's had a down game, and their defense suffered from it. Like, and I think that's the difference is Troy Ray can go out and be bad, quote unquote bad. He can have a bad game, but Chaos will still win because the rest of their defense is so fluent and will help him out. He's not necessarily having to be that good at the midfield. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is the Whipsnakes D is so good that it forces teams to run through the midfield. So if Earhart's on his game, he's taking their best midfield dodger away too. And now you're asking, their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th dodger to go against your short sticks, who this year are going to be Roman Puglisi and Ty Warner. Hello. So it's very different than a Troy Ray having to go out and he can kind of be because his team's going to help him, or John Sexton, Hugh Krantz, those kind of guys. These guys on other teams have some leeway to have a bad game, whereas him, a bad game means an L for the Whips.
Midfielder of the Year. Last year went to Zach Currier. Very well deserved. He's a dog. I already know where you're going with this one. Think
this one's tough for me because I do want to go with what you're thinking and what probably should be my obvious answer. It's just so hard to say that because
I got him coming up later on in the show.
Possibly. He could possibly be coming up later in the show, or it's just like there's that. I like the idea of midfielder of the year going to an all-around midfielder. The guy that we're hinting at is an offensive guy, doesn't play a lot of defense, doesn't have a lot of ground balls or cross turnovers. I think all of that matters. A guy like Connor Curse, or not Connor, sorry, the oldest Curse brother, that's playing for the Whips. I think And maybe it is Connor.
Yeah, it's Connor.
Yeah, Connor.
Collins the goalie.
Yeah. Too many of C's and cursed, and I ain't got time for all that. A guy like Connor, a guy like Reed Bowery, Zach Currier, Danny Logan, Roman Puglisi, like these guys who do both and actively play both sides of the ball are those guys that I believe deserve to be a midfielder of the year. But I will say Miles Jones for midfielder of the year, because if he has the year he had last year or something similar or better, you can't ignore that. 32 points to tie for second in the league as a midfielder on a team that has Rob Pennell, Ryder Guardsy, Jules Henningberg, Matt Cavanaugh. I mean, I could keep going, but I don't think I have to. That says a lot in itself, especially when you're 6'5", 235, and run people over for fun. Like, soar through the air game one to open the first goal of the year, 30 seconds in, man soaring through the crease. Like, and he didn't stop there. Like, he had an amazing year last year. He bounces off of that and continues to do much of the same this year. I don't think you can deny him an award again.
I'm going Zach Currier. Like you said, he's just the best two-way, all-around midfielder, and what he does for that Water Dogs team, no other team has that. And they also added, Reed Bowering, who's going to play an attack version of what Zach Currier does, which is just stupid. He's just the best midfielder all around on the planet. So I'm going to go with Zach Currier to win back-to-back. The Leadership Award went to the now retired Kyle Harrison. Obviously, this was from, his role with the Black Lacrosse Alliance and everything, helping form that, and, with the diversity and inclusion in the sport of lacrosse, along with Miles Jones, Jules, Pat Harbison, the list goes on and on. Who do you have taking home the Leadership Award?
If it's not, I'll go two here. Either Eric Law or Scott Ratliff. I think Eric Law wins it because if they go along the route that they've been continuing to go, guys who are helping lead their squad on the field but also leading something off, what Eric Law has been continuously doing in the Denver area for lacrosse has been phenomenal every year. He continues to build and build, so that obviously will play a part in it. And then he's going to be probably the lone, I shouldn't say lone veteran, but he's that veteran on that list that's like kind of like at the top. Like, hey, you need to carry me up the mountain, buddy, so I can show you how to drink from the water hole, So he's got that leadership role going both ways. And Scott Ratliff, I don't know really what he's doing off the field other than talking during Georgia Swarm games.
But doing a fucking great job at it.
A phenomenal job. But on the field, I mean, there's no doubt that he has his handprints all over the Archers offense. And just you can see some similarities, or not offense, but just in their entire game. You see some similarities in the role he had with the Atlanta Blaze and the role he has with the Archers now. And nothing has really changed. He's just taking his experience and his expertise and giving it to the young guys and helping them flourish. So it's got to be one of those two, in my opinion.
I had Eric Law, and since you gave two, I'm going to put Jules down for the Leadership Award there. He's just been a leader on this Redwoods team since he got here, and obviously everything he does with the Black Lacrosse Alliance, everything he's been doing with Juke Lab. He's a leader on and off the field, and he's somebody that any generation of lacrosse fan can look up to Jules and see what he's doing, and he's making a difference. So Eric Law was my first pick, and then I'm also going to go with Jules there. The Humanitarian Award went to Lyle Thompson last year. I'm also giving it to Lyle Thompson this year. And Lyle won it, obviously, for the people at home. Everything that he was doing to raise awareness for the atrocities committed at the native boarding schools and residential schools in North America. And he's continuing to do that players will continue wearing the orange straps on their helmets this year. So I'm going to go with Lyle once again.
I'll put Lyle as my backup. That's just a safe bet. But I kind of like the idea of Romar. They've been doing a lot with him recently. The league has TLN did some stuff with him, and just I think they may be using him. I shouldn't say using him, but just his story and the level of play he plays at, and the intensity he plays with could be a big breakthrough for the Latino American community to get more into lacrosse and feel like they have a space that they belong in, because everyone does belong in lacrosse and should feel like they belong. So I think he may be able to get this award if he can take that story and keep pushing it the way he has and continue to make an impact off the field in terms of diversity for the sport of lacrosse.
Coach of the year last year went to friend of the program Andy Copeland, leading the Water Dogs to that 1 seed after having a 1-3 round robin and quick exit from the championship series. Who do you got winning Coach of the Year in 2022, Deej?
Tim Soudan, 1,000%. I think Chrome being able to bounce back and have a better year than they had last year, making it into the playoffs, and just how I think it's going to be more about how he gets this team together, constructs them, figure out how to gel all the pieces together. Because what I've noticed about every PLL roster at this point is it's a moving game of puzzle pieces that continuously change in and out from week to week, day to day. One day you got this many guys, the next day you got this many guys, and you pull your pieces in, and one day they fit, and the next day it seemed like the whole moved, and you got to grab a different piece that it actually fits. And just to see the way that Tim Soudan is going to play around with this roster this year and get them into a competitive spot, get them into the playoff, I think is enough to win him Coach of the Year.
I'm going Nat St. Laurent.
That was my other choice.
It's time. It's time for him to take home the award. This is the year. I have Redwoods getting the 1 seed this year, and if anything has been proven time and time again, if you get that 1 seed, it enhances your chances at getting Coach of the Year. Give me Coach Nat, friend of the program. Roll fucking Woods. Let's go. MVP last year went to the homie Blaze Reardon, for obvious reasons. Talk to the people, DJ. Let them know who you got winning your MVP this year.
I think Grant. Amen. I think he has a very similar season to the season he had last year. Even though they don't finish first in the league, I think just that offense is going to explode, and he's just going to continue to be the quarterback of it, and it'll eventually get to a point to where people are so overemphasized on his assisting ability that he begins to start to score a lot, and then they just play him straight up, and now he's literally having his will, because it's like, okay, am I going to pass or am I going to shoot? You don't know what I'm going to do, so now I'm just going to have fun with you. I think he's just in a position where he can walk. He's walking into a league that's his, almost. Just the roster he's been put on with the skill he has. It's like watching LeBron James right before he went to Miami. Those last few years at Cleveland, you could see LeBron begin to take the league over, and then he stepped into a team that was surrounded by talent, and he just completely took off. Grant Amen is very much in that same position, very much hitting arguably his prime of skill, and has stepped onto a team that's loaded, and there's really no way of stopping him.
I don't hate the pick. I would love to see the PLL MVP come home to Philadelphia. Love Grant. The only reason I'm not going to go Grant is because I think There's another guy on that team that will split votes with Grant, and his name is Tom Schreiber. And for that reason, I'm going to go with your pre-pod pick. Miles Jones is going to win the MVP this year. Nat St. Laurent's going to win Coach of the Year. Redwood's top of the table. You guys already know where I'm coming from with the prediction here. I think Miles last year had a fantastic season that was so underrated, and we talked about that a ton on this show. And I think it's only going to continue with the additional pieces around this Redwood squad now. I think it's only going to elevate his game, and Miles Jones will be your 2022 PLL MVP.
Wow. I don't hate it. No, I don't hate it.
Championship game prediction, and then we'll touch on the World Lacrosse news to wrap up the show.
I mean, I gave my prediction way back at the end of last season. Whips Woods in Philly, full circle moment, Woods win. I'm sticking by it.
I'm going to say, and obviously our standings and everything don't reflect what everything could be. I'm going to say the championship is going to be Water Dogs Redwoods in the final in Philly. And obviously, Redwoods are taking it home. I think Water Dogs have insane talent on this team. They have depth that can help carry them, through missing a Dylan Ward, through missing an Eli Gobrecht. And I just think this is Redwood's year to get it done. They beat the Water Dogs, and they hoist the trophy back in Philly, where it all got started for, this true unfinished business in the PLL. So give me Woods to win against the Water Dogs. DJ's got Woods to win against Whips. We're going to touch on the World Lacrosse ESPN contract real quick here. They signed a historic multi-year agreement with World Lacrosse. ESPN does through 2023. 246 games across 3 World Lacrosse Championship carried exclusively on ESPN platforms. This will be the 2022 Women's Championship, the 2022 Men's U21 Championship, and the 2023 Men's Championship. ESPN just continuing to monopolize lacrosse. I think to have it as a one-stop shop is huge for just the fandom and just people getting eyes on the sport. And it's going to be massive. So World Lacrosse now on the worldwide leader.
Yeah, and I think we're just inching closer to seeing, those stat archives and record archives, team archives and stuff on ESPN that we see from, NFL, NBA, NHL, all that other stuff. It makes it easier to start to keep track of lacrosse and start to get the average fan in. How do fans, begin to learn a lot about Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson? They really just go back and look at stats. Most guys just go back and look at stats, look at records, look at who won the championship. They don't really go back and watch the film that's on YouTube for them to watch. And yes, I know it's on YouTube because I watched it because I was an actual student of basketball at one point. But, getting those archives is huge for the game. That's something that, even us can use in terms of seeing where guys fall and all-time record placement and that kind of stuff. And then we get into fantasy lacrosse. When you get those archives, then it's a lot easier to start to transfer over, the rankings of players in fantasy and what, how many points things should be worth in your fantasy league. The more ESPN has control of lacrosse, I think the sooner we see a lacrosse fantasy platform on their app.
Big time, which is super exciting. Can't wait. Just more lacrosse on ESPN. That's huge. We'll wrap up with the NCAA tournament. Final fours are set, Deej. The men's bracket, Maryland versus Princeton, Cornell versus Rutgers, And then the women's championship side of things, it's North Carolina versus Northwestern and Maryland versus Agent Ocho, Charlotte North, and Boston College. Who you got winning this weekend?
So I'll start with women's. I've been watching when I have some time. Most of the time I'm watching at work because I'm not really doing anything there. And they're always playing on ESPN during the day, which I dislike, but I also like because it gives me something to do at work. But also, why are women only playing during the day? Put them on at night as well.
Yep.
Because, I was talking to some players from my team. I was like, I'm one of few men who actually watches women's lacrosse. And I rattled off a few teams: Boston College, Florida, North Carolina. Especially, I was like, North Carolina is gross.
Shout out Jamie Ortega.
They're North Carolina. Jamie Ortega and North Carolina are very much looking like the Logan Wisnauskas and Maryland of women's lacrosse.
I tell you, I met Jamie last year on Long Island.
Yes, you did. You talked to me about that, and they're just.
We got to get her on this show.
Yes, I'm so down for that. They've separated themselves. They're two teams that are like, until we lose, we are national champions, and that's pretty much what it is. Is they are the national champion until they lose. But obviously, with the way that Colin Kirst has played in net, you can't count Rutgers out. And then, Boston College or Charlotte Ocho. So I'm going UNC, Boston College. I think UNC wins. And then I'm going Maryland, Rutgers, and I think Maryland wins.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think that's where it ends up going. It would be sick to see an all New Jersey final. But I think Maryland, they're a wagon. North Carolina's a wagon. And both 1 seeds are going to end up taking home dubs. Just as, the committees predicted. But, everybody hates the committees, and I don't blame them because this year's men's tournament was bracketed pretty shitty. But, everybody.
But as a Kirst brother, are you upset on Monday at the national championship game if you lose on Friday or Saturday? True. On Saturday, you lose on Saturday. Are you upset watching your brother play?
Valid.
Or are you forgetting that for 2 hours, literally 2 hours? Can you forget for 2 hours and just celebrate your brother and let him have his game? Or are you just upset thinking for 2 hours how much this should be you and your team? Like, that would be my biggest thing. And that I wish I could, had a chance to ask them. Or there's a possibility, not too many people have talked about this. I can't remember their last name, but there's a chance for another brother matchup in this tournament. If both Princeton and Cornell were to win on Saturday, there's a set of brothers that one plays on Princeton, one plays on Cornell. They play each other for the national championship. Do you celebrate your brother if he wins the national championship against you? Or are you just bitter? Like, these are the kind of questions we need answers to. And that's the kind of stuff the NCAA tournament offers you. You don't see too much of it out in the pros. It seems like brothers always end up on the same team once you get into the pros. So I'm interested.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Depending on what we have going on this weekend, maybe we'll have like a Twitter Spaces or something talking NCAA tournament. So that's why you got to follow us on the Twitter machine. But everybody enjoy the NCAA tournament. Enjoy the final weekend of no PLL lacrosse. And enjoy San Diego versus Colorado in the Western Conference Finals of the NLL. We'll be back next week talking NLL Finals. DJ will be in studio, and we'll be getting ready for PLL Albany with a whole lot of stuff in store for you guys. So make sure you're following us on the socials at OTBLaxPod, Twitter and Instagram. Follow DJ on Twitter at SCS_NextGreat. Follow me at KBIZZL311. Check out the website, undergroundsportsphiladelphia.com, for all of our written content. Subscribe to the podcast feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Hit the like button, click the bell icon, comment down below, all that good stuff. We just gave you guys 2 hours of content. Come through for the boys. Support the show on the YouTube. because it really, really, really goes a long way for us just growing the show and growing the network as a whole. Big thank you to our sponsors, Tomahawk Shades, Kenwood Beer, and Bino Board. Go to tomahawkshades.com. Use code USP for 25% off your order at tomahawkshades.com. Kenwood Beer. Use the Kenny tracker at kenwoodbeer.com to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia area. You got to be 21 or older to do so. And, of course, please drink responsibly. And Bino Board. Use code BINOUSP. That's BINHOUSP at binoboard.com for 10% off your order at binoboard.com. This has been episode number 223 of the allegedly award-nominated, honorably mentioned, and, of course, viewable on YouTube, Outside the Box podcast, part of the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For DJ, I'm KB. The next time we see you, we'll be in person and we'll be in Albany. But until then, we are signing off. Peace.
Peace.